Alright, so today we're talking about something a lot of people remember fondly of, Disney's Descendants. If you were around in 2015, you probably remember when this movie hit and totally blew up. It felt like Disney had struck gold with something fresh, right? But over the time, we saw the buzz fade and now it's pretty much a thing in the past. But why? How did a franchise that seemed like it was everywhere go from a cultural phenom to, well, quiet? Let's break it down. So Descendants hit Disney Channel in 2015 and it was, to put it simply, different. At first glance, it seemed like just another Disney Channel movie. Bright colors, catchy songs, and familiar faces. But it had this unique twist. It wasn't about the heroes, it wasn't about the princesses and knights we've seen a million times. It was about the kids of Disney villains, Mal, Evie, Carlos, and Jay. And that instantly gave it something special. This was a unique angle for the Disney fans. It was a chance to see villains in a new light through the eyes of their children. It was a perfect mix of nostalgia for older audiences and a fresh narrative for younger ones. But the villain kids, in short VKs, had to decide whether they would follow in their parents' wicked footsteps or forge their own path. And then of course there's the music. Disney has always had a knack for creating catchy songs, but Descendants raised the bar. Songs like Rotten to the Core became an anthem for a whole generation. The soundtrack wasn't just an add-on, it was part of the movie's identity. Disney Channel movies had always had featured music, but this one was different. The songs weren't just throwaways, they were chart toppers.
They say I'm trouble, and that makes me glad.
The chemistry between the cast was undeniable. Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, and the late Cameron boys and Boo Boo Stewart embodied their roles so well that it was easy to see why they became household names. The performances were energetic, the characters were relatable, and the dynamic between them felt natural. They were the perfect ensemble for the story of rebellion and self-discovery. Audiences connected with them. The messages of second chances and fighting against your legacy resonated with the young generations facing their own identity struggles. The concept of who you are versus who you are expected to be is a universal thing, and Disney tapped into it perfectly.
I see no need to bring Ben into this.
It may be a little unnecessary, but it is so much fun. Here's the deal.
Just like your mother, always a catch.
Now fast forward to 2017. Wow, feels like yesterday this movie came out, and Descendants 2 comes out. And Disney takes everything that worked in the first movie and just amplifies it. Bigger stakes, new characters like Oma, played by China Annie McClain, as Ursula's daughter, was a huge addition to the series. She brought this fresh, fierce energy to the story that made the whole thing feel bigger. Plus, the whole Isle of the Lost and Aradan thing deepened in conflict. You had Mal now struggling between her villainous roots and her new life in Aradan, and Uma just coming in and shaking everything up. And let's not forget about the music. Descendants 2 gave us hits like What's My Name and Chillin' Like a Villain.
What's my name? What's my name?
And once again, Disney nailed it. The soundtrack topped the charts and the choreograph was fire, and the fans ate it up. In fact, the premiere pulled in 8 million viewers, which was huge for a Disney Channel original movie. The audience had grown and Disney was still delivering. But here's where it gets tricky. When a franchise like Descendants hits it big, there's always the pressure to keep up, to keep getting bigger, to keep the momentum going. And that's when it starts to feel like a balancing act. Because while Descendants 2 was a hit, it was clear the expectations for Descendants 3 was sky high. So 2019 rolls around and Descendants 3 hits. Now this one was different for a lot of reasons. Not just it was the end of the original trilogy, but because of what happened behind the scenes. Cameron Boyce, who played Carlos, tragically passed away before filming wrapped. And that loss made a huge emotional impact not just on the cast but on the fans. Disney did a beautiful job honoring Cameron in Descendants 3. His passing was written into the movie and it added this weight to the final chapter. It wasn't just about the villains anymore, it became about legacy, loss, and remembering those who were no longer with us. And that gave the movie a sense of finality and depth.
Got me on the loose, huh?
No. Dragons don't really lose sleep. I wonder what fried octopus tastes like.
Okay, why do we not do this?
We're celebrating our differences.
So why did it all fade so fast? Well, a few reasons. First off, Descendants was aimed at a pretty specific age group. Younger teens, but like any other fan base, those kids grew up. As the core audience got older, the franchise didn't quite evolve with them. There weren't any major adult theme storylines or spin-off to keep the older fans hooked, the way something like High School Musical did, which transitioned into High School Musical the series on Disney+. Trash show, by the way. Very trash. Nobody's watching that.
I'm on a path of distraction. This is gonna be fun.
So came Rise of Red. This one I don't even consider it as one of a Descendants movie because I feel like it just has the name and nobody asked for this one. So Rise of Red is a little bit all over the place, and I think the issue here is that the movie doesn't really know what it wants to be. Is it trying to continue the Descendants legacy, or is it a standalone story? Honestly, it feels a bit of both, and that's where it starts to stumble. So we've got Red, the daughter of Queen of Hearts, who's clearly meant to be the new lead, right? But the problem is the movie doesn't spend enough time really fleshing out her character. She's kind of just thrown into a mess of a story with new characters and situations that don't feel connected to anything we loved about the original Descendants film. For fans of the original trilogy, there's this sense that the Descendants world is kind of drifting away from its roots. I mean, think about it. In Descendants, the plot revolved around the kids of Disney villains navigating life and Isle of Lost and trying to break free from their parents' evil legacies. It had pretty clear focus, but Rise of Red not so much. It's like they tried to build a new world, but it doesn't fit in with the universe that fans already know and love. Now let's talk about the characters, because this is where Rise of Red really dropped the ball. The Descendants series had always been about watching these kids grow and evolve. Ma, Evie, Jay, and Carlos. We see their journey and the challenges they face, and that's what makes them relatable. But Red, she's a bit flat. Red's character arc doesn't really go anywhere. She starts off with this identity crisis, dealing with the pressure of being the daughter of a classic fairy tale character, but it doesn't really make any significant progress. In the other Descendants movies, even the supporting characters had their own arcs. They learned, they grew, and in the Rise of Red, it really feels like the movie spends too much introducing new characters that we just don't care about, instead of focusing on developing the ones that are supposed to matter. And look, I get it. You can't expect every single new character to be a breakout star, but if you're going to introduce someone new as the lead, like Red, you have to give them a reason to connect with the audience. And honestly, I think Red just felt underdeveloped, especially compared to the other Descendants characters.
We'll work together until history is rewritten.
And of course, we have to talk about the music from this movie. I mean, none of them had the same punch nor energy like the first ones. The songs are underwhelming. It felt like the movie was trying to force the musical moments, but they didn't land the way the previous Descendants songs did. It's hard to explain, but when a Descendants movie doesn't have a killer song that gets stuck in your head, well, something's missing. It's not like the songs were bad, but they didn't feel essential to the story. They were forgettable, which is a huge letdown, and you're following a franchise that's built a brand on incredible music. So that's saying something. Another reason this movie was a huge letdown is because of the pacing. The pacing was all over the place, and the movie just didn't know what it wanted to do. And they spent the whole movie just talking about this ball, and they never showed it. They just rushed to the end and that's it. You're hyping up this ball and then you never showed it, so it was a huge letdown for everybody. Well guys, that's the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like these type of videos, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe.